There are certain places in Nigerian universities where students simply refuse to go after dark. Ask anyone who spent enough time on campus, and they'll tell you there are benches, pathways, and trees with stories attached to them. Most people laugh them off as old campus legends until they experience something they can't explain. This is the story of a 100-level student named Amara. One evening, Amara left her hostel around 9 o'clock to buy food. Curfew was at 10, so she wasn't worried. She ordered her food, waited for it to be prepared, ate at the canteen, and instead of heading straight back to her hostel like everyone else, she decided to take a walk around campus. It had become a habit of hers. Whenever she wanted to clear her mind, she would walk to a quiet bench beneath a large tree on the far side of the campus. It wasn't close to the hostels, and by that time of night, very few students ever passed through there. As she approached the bench that night, she noticed someone else already sitting there. It was a young man she had never seen before. He greeted her first, and what started as ordinary small talk quickly turned into a surprisingly enjoyable conversation. They talked about school, lectures, annoying assignments, hostel life, and the struggles of being freshers. The conversation flowed so naturally that neither of them noticed how much time had passed. At some point, they got up and strolled around the area before returning to the same bench. That was when Amara finally noticed something strange. The campus had become unusually quiet. She pulled out her phone to check the time. It was already a few minutes past 11. Realizing how late it had become, she immediately suggested they head back before the security officers began their patrol. The young man agreed, but then suddenly remembered that he had dropped something while they were walking. Amara offered to help him look for it, but he simply pointed into the darkness and assured her it wouldn't take long. He told her to wait by the bench and promised he'd be back in a minute. Then she sat down and began scrolling through her phone while she was waiting. 2 minutes passed, then 5, then almost 10. Finally, she looked up. There was no sign of him. She called out once.
David?
No response. She called again.
David,
Still
where are
nothing.
you?
Only the sound of the
David!
wind rushing through the trees answered her. Feeling uneasy, Amara stood up and decided to return to her hostel alone. At first, everything seemed normal. Then she heard it. Footsteps. She stopped walking. The footsteps stopped too. She slowly turned around. No one was there. Thinking she was imagining things, she continued walking. A few seconds later, the footsteps returned. This time, they sounded closer, slower, heavier. The sounds behind her quickened too. What had started as slow footsteps now seemed to be following her every move. Then came the whispers. They were too faint to make out any words, but they were close enough to make the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. She could feel it now. Someone or something was behind her. Without thinking, she broke into a run. The campus that had once felt so familiar suddenly seemed endless. Every pathway felt longer than she remembered. Every shadow looked darker. Every tree seemed to hide something watching her. The footsteps were no longer trying to keep up. They already had. All she could think about was reaching her hostel. She had tried calling her roommate several times, hoping she would answer and ask the porter to unlock the hostel door. The calls rang unanswered. Now she had no choice but to hope someone inside would hear her. As the hostel building finally came into view, she ran even faster. She reached the entrance and began pounding on the door with everything she had. "Please, open the door!" No response. She banged harder. Behind her, the footsteps stopped. She kept banging on the door, tears streaming down her face as she begged for someone, anyone, to open it. Just as she felt whatever was behind her was about to reach her, the hostel door swung open. The porter stood there, startled by the frantic knocking. "What happened? Why are you outside at this hour?"
Amara couldn't answer. She sat on the floor, struggling to catch her breath, her entire body trembling. The porter looked at her with concern. "Are you all right?" Amara nodded weakly. "Thank you, ma'am," she managed to whisper, before hurrying upstairs to her room. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, trying to slow her breathing. The noise had wakened her roommate, Blessing. Half asleep, Blessing sat up. "You're just coming back?" Amara nodded. Then she told her everything. How she had met a friendly boy on the bench, how they talked for hours, how he'd gone to retrieve something he'd dropped, how he'd vanished without a trace, and how she had been followed all the way back to the hostel. Finally, Blessing asked one question. "What did you say his name was?" "David." The color drained from Blessing's face. Blessing took a deep breath. Several years ago, there was a 100-level student named David. He died around that same part of the campus. They say he never left. They say he only appears to people who are alone. Some students have even claimed they sat with him, laughed with him, and held full conversations with him before finding out he had been dead for years. That night, Amara barely slept. From that day forward, she never stayed outside after dark. If she needed food, she bought it early. By 9 o'clock every evening, she made sure she was safely inside her hostel. Because sometimes, the scariest campus legends aren't stories at all. Sometimes, they're just warnings from the students who lived long enough.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. What would you have done if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments. Until the next story, stay curious, and remember, not every story ends the way you expect. See you in the next one.